So, this isn't a very structured workshop. I don't have a PowerPoint or anything. I'm just going to talk about the importance of rapid prototyping and rapid playtesting, and general rapid iteration and failing faster type ideas.
They have to be different scenes, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the
what
big conceits of game design is that we can't really know what we're doing until we playtest. Right? That we are one of those art forms that kind of inherently has to fly blind, because the valuable game experience, the thing that we're really crafting, only exists when there's a player to play the game. And you can't really assess that and see how well you crafted it until you stop the player to play your game.
Create a new script that would handle pause.
And so playtesting in general is very important. Based off of that premise, though more specifically what we're going to talk about today is that
it's an object with no components in it.
A lot of people, when they approach playtesting, want to playtest in big grand batches, right? You get to a build, and then you playtest that build for a day or two, and then you go away for weeks and make the next build, and then you playtest that build, and you go away for weeks and you playtest that build. And you have big formally scheduled playtest dates that you can go for very long times without playtesting. And this approach to playtesting has the flaw that you're not really you can get very far with a bad idea before you realize it's a bad idea. And it can create a problem because you're only testing incomplete builds. You don't really see the impacts of individual changes as clearly. Or if you do want to see the impacts of an individual change, you have to kind of make very weird, deliberate builds where it's just like, everything is the same, but this one mechanic's now super polished in this really unpolished game. And so an alternative approach to that is the idea of just rapidly prototyping as fast and playtesting as fast and as regularly and is as small steps as you can, which allows you to be much better directed in a lot of ways.
I've actually never tried that.
Notice when something is going to fail a lot sooner. And because you're dealing with small atomic changes, you really get to see the consequences of each individual change much better.
Components from one to
I did a screen, I just want to test it.
Wait, you've already made a screen?
Rapid prototyping very much
You might
comes
wanna start
alive
with
and is very clear to see how it works and why it's so beneficial in
it just feels good to start from scratch.
tabletop world. Because in tabletop you have a very slow, short dev cycle, so you can prototype really rapidly.
But look at all the videos again?
Which is nice.
Oh, the videos the first time, I doubt you forgot that much.
So, ideally you can really just sit there and say, I want to make this small tweak.
Look at the videos.
Do a playtest with that one small tweak. I want to do this other small tweak. Make a playtest with that other
You know
small
what the
tweak.
real world's like? Not everyone knows everything. It's impossible.
What kinds of small tweaks could you do in between versions of a board game? If you're just trying to get in as many small iterations and playtests as you possibly can.
Yes.
Come on.
Like what type of board game? What type of board game?
Any board game.
What type of dice you use? What type of die would be just a fairly small tweak. Though changing the game
Changing a
does-
D6 into like a D8 or something.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not doing
That'll be
anything
more like
right
stat
now.
changes.
Helping you.
Yeah, that might be a bit bigger change. Generally, when you're doing your math for all your numbers tends to be pretty heavily impacted by the dice you're building around.
Yeah.
Well, from my experience when I was doing a board game, I was editing
Well,
mechanics.
I guess just
I was like tweaking mechanics and stuff
this is
like that.
really just a chance to talk to each other about
I
what
was
we're
also
doing.
tweaking the board state,
And
like what
not to
what
step
things
on
were
each
on the
other's
board and how
branches.
it interacted with the rest with the
Yeah,
players.
well, yeah, I just.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah, like the board game I made. I
So,
changed the
um,
well first iteration I added in like a square where if you stepped on it, you would lose one health.
How I would set this.
But there was only like 2 of them, and they're on the opposite side of the map.
So how I would set this.
So they were pretty, and the map was big enough that they were
Call
pretty
this game object
ineffective,
pause
and
screen.
people didn't really think about it. But then I added 2 more, and I increased the size, and then it became much more,
And then underneath
much
it,
more
you hit
significant
panel
of
right.
a impact in the
Oh,
game.
that.
Mhm.
So just make it nested, right?
Oh, down there.
Ah, yeah. it's
So
gonna
yeah, you can
look
really,
anything
you
UI
know, if
related.
you want to just be like, hey, I think this number needs to be a little bigger, I think I need more of this thing. If you want to just take out a mechanic, turn off a mechanic for a test, or
Yeah,
throw in
there
a
it is.
slightly different version, you know, instead of there being, you know,
Yeah, I don't know why can't.
1/2 trample damage, there's 3/4 trample damage, or full trample damage, or no trample
Just to make
damage,
it all big like that in the editor.
which is really beneficial. I should account that this still plays with, like, if you follow this admire rule of whenever you're making a change, always go by halves and doubles, just because you want to just push things and just radically throw your numbers and see what that does to them. That still can happen in the world of rapid prototyping, especially because you can rapidly change your numbers back.
Okay.
Let's
Like, you know, it doesn't have to
talk
look much,
about.
it just needs to
Yeah.
work.
So what does rapid prototyping look like in video game world? How do you rapid prototype a video game?
So one thing that I was doing is like for jumps, for the jump in a 2D platformer, there were several variables that were public, and you changed them slightly, and it would change like how high you jumped and like the angle and the little feel of like your movement. And so I would play test it with one person with like one movement script that was a little bit more floaty, and then play test it with another person that was a little bit more tight.
Yep.
And then I would just
Oh.
switch which person, and do that multiple times with multiple people, and like
Yeah.
which one did they seem to enjoy more, which one gave them more control, how much did I want that control, and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay, so definitely, you know, having numbers you can easily tweak in your build so you have those public
Add
variables.
text where?
It's good. Build so your different build variations at the same time.
Let's go back
and
to
just
the
see which
UI,
one you like.
control
Is a
text
great way to do it.
somewhere.
How early should you start playtesting your game? When do you start playtesting your game?
As soon as you can do something.
Good, Victor knows the answer. Yes, no. I am a firm advocate that you should always start playtesting your game as soon as you can press a button and make something happen on the screen. This really allows you to, whatever you have implemented, you can immediately start playtesting and immediately start tweaking and improving, as opposed to having to wait for giant mass playtesting at the end. As I mentioned, this gives you all the advantages of rapid prototyping, where, you know, if I have a first full build with enemies and movement and stuff, and the player says it feels bad, well, did the enemies feel bad? Did the movement feel bad?
Yeah, good job.
What
It's
did
your
the
first
player
time.
not like? But if, like, I build my movement and play test just my movement, and players say this feels good, then I throw in an enemy and players feel bad, well, now I know, oh, hey, it's the enemy, right? That gives you a much better, more granular data, more isolated data. It also allows you to change things, right? If you're building your entire game around a really crummy movement scheme,
Oh.
you probably want to
So
test
you're
that movement
Unreal
scheme,
Engine person, huh?
before you build anything else
Yeah.
and waste time on anything else. Because if the movement scheme sucks and you build the rest of the game around it, well,
Okay, that's something.
you just
I
wasted a lot of time
actually
building a
get
lot of
with.
things that you didn't have to waste if you just tested your movement scheme.
I
from the
honestly
get-go.
find real code easier.
So
And you can apply that to a much
it is
smaller level.
much more easier to do it with blueprints.
Really,
but
yeah,
it
as
is
soon as
hard
you have
to
anything
grasp.
that you can press buttons
Once you
on.
get into the gist of it, it's like,
You should
oh,
be
it
testing
makes
it.
sense. And then you can logically, when you have enough experience, you can
Um,
start logically seeing patterns.
What's this
And
workshop on again?
eventually you'll.
Rapid prototyping.
I guess it's
Cool.
kind of
I thought it was
just
a
like
card
learning
game
a new
one.
programming language.
No.
Yeah,
Those
pretty
are on
much.
Friday
Just
mornings.
learn how to
My
connect.
bad.
Yeah.
So it's fun, and then a pain.
How?
Pain.
Yeah. I don't know. Just playtest your game with
Do you
odd.
already have a canvas?
It's good. Don't wait for
Alright.
builds. If you don't have a new build but you have a playtesting opportunity, what do?
Playtest.
You
Yeah,
playtest.
text, you add it.
If your game's not done yet, but you have a playtesting opportunity, what do you do?
Playtesting referencing, you could always.
Your game's not done and you don't have a playtesting opportunity, what do you do?
Grab someone and force them to playtest.
Yes, correct answer.
When pressing play on Unity doesn't break everything, playtest.
I firmly believe that the only thing worse than a bad playtest is no playtest. There's no such thing as a playtest worse than no playtest. So always playtest. It will always be worth your time. It will always give you more valuable data. And do it in really lots, and it's generally try to do it in lots of small increments.
I don't remember you could color.
Yeah.
How did you color it?
I don't really have much else to say other than yelling at individuals for not playtesting their games enough, but
Now we need art.
Luke and Victor haven't playtest their games enough, so
I've been to one of your design workshops before.
sounds about right.
It tends to find its way into most conversations.
It
What was
is,
it called?
in my opinion, the most important part of game design.
Are we gonna give
Like
them
conversation on getting the right pace. Oh, how do we figure out what the right pace is? Playtest.
Yeah, they would
like on the art, like
Conversation on balance. How do we figure out how to playtest? Conversation on playtest.
You can't do anything if you're blind, and you're
Yeah.
blind if you're not playtesting.
So,
do that later.
that's like
We got this. Now this.
gonna
It's
be.
like
It's a hard part.
It's
Where
like
the
you're
location
painting something blindfolded,
and
and
where
then every
the
once in a while
item
you get to
is
take
gonna
off the
be.
mask and look
But
at
it'll be
things.
invisible.
The more frequently you're able to take off the mask, the better in most situations, unless like it's some sort of weird abstract art.
So like.
If you can just not have the mask on,
It'll
it's
always
the
be
best.
there
So constant
following
playtesting.
For the players.
I always analogize game design to cooking,
Ugly.
Mhm.
and playtesting is tasting your
In the
food.
ready function is to.
Yeah, that's better than
Same concept.
yeah, same idea, except for instead of just adding a blindfold to the art equation, you actually use an equation where you taste food every once in a while, not all the
last thing
time.
that isn't working is I'm trying to add a.
Yeah, a game designer who does not playtest, in my opinion, is like a chef who never tastes their own food.
an Xbox container.
But it tastes terrible. Why should I taste it?
Terrible and
Yeah,
so
so-
I'll try and help.
Except for the big difference is that
Usually the air.
what? Oh yeah, here's an important question. What doesn't count as rapid playtesting?
Yeah.
Not changing anything and just playtesting a whole bunch.
No, that counts as
That
rapid
counts.
playtesting. I mean, the advantage of rapid playtesting is you get to change little things. But,
Yeah.
oh wait, okay, yeah, that would just be lots of playtesting, not rapid playtesting,
Yeah.
because you want to change little
You
things.
get a lot of perspectives on one thing, but you wouldn't have.
a lot of different
For
variations.
Not playtesting is also not rapid playtesting.
Hmm?
Not playtesting is also not rapid playtesting.
I was wondering, like,
What happens
why is
if
none
you're
of
working
the
on your
games
game and every
showing
time your
up?
programmer gives you something new, you play it? Does that count as rapid playtesting?
No, because
Why not?
you need to get someone else to play. You're biased.
Exactly. Do play your own games. Don't think it counts as playtesting.
You're not a good playtester. You know how to play the game and you know how it's supposed to work.
Yep.
And
Okay.
just because you know how it's supposed to work doesn't mean someone who gets into the situation not knowing how it's supposed to work will inherently know how it's supposed to work.
Yes. So rapid playtesting doesn't mean you need to just be going through bajillions of playtesters.
Is this
And you
you
grabbing them
celebrating
every
that
few
it does
minutes.
work?
And you'll need
Yeah, I was just trying to make
new
sure that it-
people, because if you've got a guy
Fast,
who's been
like, this
playtesting
is how they
since the
evolve
beginning
from
build
now.
and has a rough idea how things are going, then he's no longer providing you,
The
well,
way
he's
the
providing you
actual type of
valuable
content
information.
For rapid
It just keeps
playtesting, you
going.
worry a little bit less about that because you're more interested in the contrast
I wish I
than
could
in
use labels for the
Than,
dialogue, but
fresh
it
perspectives,
doesn't
but,
work
like,
that way,
Really?
because
new playtesters are always
I
valuable.
could if I was
Yeah.
just doing the colors, but
But
because
not
I'm doing the
motion.
shaky.
Though reused playtesters
I have
are
to draw
definitely
each
more
one
valuable in a
individually,
rapid playtesting
which is
scenario than in a
Huge.
general playtesting scenario
Like, do you have to
because
shift over? as
you
to
just
something
you want to
that
they
takes
can
over
provide you
something
talking
and
to you
Yeah,
about the
like,
contrast with the
that's
slight
what I'm
change, which is what
doing
you're
is
usually interested in.
Okay. And you want new playtesters
You
for
just
things
add a
like,
random number
hey,
between
what are you actually doing in this game?
That's
Hey, I
true.
made a brand new mechanic. Does this mechanic make any sense?
Yeah.
Actually,
Uh,
I think it'd be.
and for the weight.
Hey,
You have no idea what's going on in this game. I've got 8 mechanics. Can you figure out what those 8 mechanics are and how they operate with each other?
Yeah.
Game title
There we go. The blue.
is this mechanic actually fun, or me and all my playtesters just have Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
No, that's probably a bad example. Generally speaking, if you and your playtesters are having fun, there's something about you there. So will a new
Yeah.
player
Do
will a new player appreciate that, or is that something you need to be eased into?
I need to fix this, but I'll fix that later. It's not a big.
Or inverse, get new playtesters so you know that if a new thing is fun, is actually fun, and your old playtesters just hate it because it's a change,
Yay.
or do your old playtesters just hate it because it's bad?
Yeah.
Because players do like things the way they have been, and so
Okay, so
providing fresh playtesters does give you a less biased colored
Towards your, especially if you have like a moderately fun game and you're trying to make it better. Most people will be okay with a moderately fun game that's something they know than a slightly better, slightly more fun game that's something they don't know.
I got.
I have not, it's not very fun right
Yeah, good for you.
Wait, what classes are these for?
But,
I'm thinking four.
Oh, wow.
Food, restaurants, comments, and things, clarifications, and
So one of the
skills.
first
oh,
things
right,
is
right.
the restaurant. There's
No,
guy who's like.
I'm thinking.
I
Okay.
actually already had some,
I
but like.
think,
right.
yeah, all I really had to
And
say
then
is grab a
Center
player
could-
check your games,
I would
so
serve the same
I think I
thing.
said that.
Certainly diner.
Oh, yeah, I love 33.
Go on to announcements and announce everyone should grab it for the
here's
tester
the
game.
You know, you're
just
never
like
gonna-
in the lobby.
Basically,
Yeah.
A buy center.
We'll post
at
this
point,
video.
is-
Like,
Like-
one-liners
this
are
is
really
your-
frowned
Make a
upon.
super cut of it that's all the times to be
They
safe
are
for
not-
your
they're
first
not
game.
Yes.
Just to give you a sense of.
Prototype. Every time. Playtest. It's just every time you say playtest, cut. Everything else cut out.
Someone should make a super cut of me and all the times I've
This
said
is
something
like-
like
the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I think
directing
that
you
would
to
be
another
possible.
location. That's why I said like.
More
some
work than I
people
would
should say
do.
something
I'm
fun
not good
to
at
incentivize
supercutting.
them to
Victor, you do it,
Well,
but
this.
make everything look like noodles.
Like, L equals-
Supercut of all
Could do that with, like,
of Ryan's workshops
Right.
only when he says playtest. So just him saying playtest over and over again. Except for it's actually just a very short clip. That's the time it takes you to say one playtest. So it's all the times you say playtest played at the same
I feel like
time.
that would sound like white noise at that point.
It would, in all likelihood, like you've said it so much, you say it so similar, it would just sound like you saying playtest one time.
Yeah, it's not so hard.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
As long
the
as
cook
it's-
should also ask if you
But it looks
like one of the options. should
Okay.
be